Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Confusion persists in India over what policy the government will adopt when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Will there be an outright ban on private currencies and an official digital currency? And if there are exceptions, what will it mean? That clarity is awaited as the legislation will soon be brought to Parliament. We'll be talking to a key leader in the cryptocurrency industry in moments from now. The finance minister has described the entire cryptocurrency zone as a risky area, but the government might already be too late to the debate. In the last year alone, there has been a nearly 700% increase in the use and trading of cryptocurrencies in India. In fact, it's been one of the largest markets of the world. The last time there was a suggestion that the new law would outright ban private cryptocurrencies, the markets crashed. How will India proceed with cryptocurrency? And more importantly, how should it, given the RBI's intense and firm opposition to allowing private cryptocurrencies to be part of a business in India? Well, we can go across now live to the Wazirx founder on Mojo Story, one of the key industry leaders who will take us through how the cryptocurrency industry is looking at all of these questions. Nischal Shetty, the founder and CEO of Wazirx, is with us. Welcome to the program. Nischal, how do you see the somewhat contradictory signs that have come from the government thus far? The finance minister is promising innovation, but the language of the bill that leaked into the public domain suggested an outright ban on what the government calls private cryptocurrencies.
I think if you look at a top view of this whole sector and what's happening, I think India is one of those few countries today, a few large nations, which is at least on the path of regulation. Because in a lot of other countries, there's still lack of clarity on what the government is even thinking, or is the government even worried or looking into this sector. We probably join those countries like the US and UK, where now there is at least active discussion around crypto regulation. What sort of regulation will India come up with, and in what way, and how long will it take? I think that's still up for debate. And even in the US, for example, I think they've been discussing from the last 2 to 3 years now. They in fact have companies going IPO, but they still don't have any regulation pertaining specifically to crypto. So I think for us also, we need to now get into these deliberation and discussion stages. And it's going to take a while, I believe, before India can really formulate the right regulation for this sector.
How do you see this phrase private cryptocurrency is juxtaposed with an official digital currency, which is where the government might be going with this idea?
See, I think, that term private cryptocurrency, I think it first appeared in the 2019 draft bill that was out in the public domain. And so one thing is that term is not really a common term in the whole crypto ecosystem globally. In general, nobody really has heard of the term private cryptocurrency until this 2019 bill was released. Now, whatever information we've gathered from discussions, especially one where Mr. Garg, who was part of this 2019 bill, is that private cryptocurrency, what they meant to say was any crypto that is probably trying to compete with INR as a currency or as a payment mechanism. And their belief was anything that is not sovereign should be termed as a private crypto. Now the bigger confusion that comes to a lot of people is when you look at crypto externally to someone who's not into the sector, the definition of crypto is crypto equal to currency. Mm-hmm. So this is where the misconception is, because crypto is a lot more than just payments and just currency. And as an industry, we are trying to break that myth that crypto equal to currency, and tell people that there's a lot more to crypto than just the currency use case.
No, that's fair enough. I think the government is trying to sort of preserve the blockchain benefits that can emerge from this space. But how do you, as a leader of this industry, address the RBI concerns that this does undermine macroeconomics, financial stability, as well as the idea of a sovereign state? Because the moment you have a private currency, a state-controlled currency is the one way of a state asserting sovereignty as well as control over, the idea of a nation. So the moment you have like a currency that is independent of that control, it is a recipe for chaos, is what the RBI would argue, certainly.
Yeah, no, see, the thing is, I think as an industry also, we've been aware of this fact about where you can use crypto as a payment instrument. And the solution to that is probably bring in the right kind of regulations or curbs in the payment use case of crypto. But the confusion and the discussion today is that should you ban it completely? And I don't think that's the right approach, because you can always restrict the payment use cases, which is where the concern for the currency part comes in. But you can still allow the investment option, like where people invest it as an asset. The second is you allow all of the other products to be built on top of blockchain where crypto is needed. To give you a simple example, there's this blockchain called Ethereum, which is very popular. And if I want to run a program on top of Ethereum, the only way I can do that is with the crypto Ether. So now, if you were to ban all crypto, the question is, how does anyone run anything on the other blockchains that exist? So this is where we've got a lot of ahead of us to clarify and demystify this whole world of crypto.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there are ways to control sort of the cryptocurrency part of crypto being equal or as a sort of challenger to the Indian rupee, and you're open to that regulation. You just don't want an outright ban that would stop all the other blockchain technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think this is not just a theory, but I think either Indonesia or Malaysia, one of these two countries, what they've done is they've actually specified that don't use crypto for currency, and don't let it percolate into the payment system in our country. But you can run it for or use it for running blockchain applications as well as on the trading platforms. So some countries are trying to do exactly that.
So would you be okay if that was the regulation, that it's not allowed as a payment method, but everything else around it, the technology around it, is allowed?
Absolutely. In fact, even today, in the lack of regulatory clarity, if you look at the crypto ecosystem in India, hardly anyone is using it for payments. And the question is why? And I'll tell you why. Because India happens to be one of those few nations which has an amazing UPI payments rail, which is one 24/7. The second, it is free. Now, there is no crypto payment mechanism where you will get a free payment or a free transfer. So crypto as a payment is really not going to even be able to compete in India in front of, let's say, UPI. And that's probably the reason why we don't even now today, in the lack of prohibition of payments, we don't see that being used in the payment.
So what is it being mostly used for? Given this nearly 700% increase in users from 2020 to 2021, what are most people using crypto for, if not for payments?
See, I think the largest is as a investment option, where let's take Bitcoin, for example. And most people who get into crypto, their first currency or crypto that they buy is Bitcoin. They hold it because they see Bitcoin as digital gold. There are only 21 million Bitcoins, and people are now trying to be one of those early movers to buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, because they're seeing countries are adopting it. There are large companies buying into Bitcoin. So why don't you become one of the early movers? So that's one of the reasons. In terms of use cases, there are a variety of reasons why people are buying. I'll give you an example of there's this blockchain game, and there's one which has become really popular, Axie Infinity. So you can play games on the blockchain, and for playing those games, you need crypto. The other is NFTs. Now that's become like the talk of the town. Everyone's launching NFTs. If you want to create your own NFT, you need crypto to create that NFT. So these are some of the use cases, and there are a lot of other evolving use cases today.
Okay. There's also been an accusation that a number of the ads, by companies such as yours, the government believes they're misleading, and there should be a move to sort of demand more accountability and transparency from these companies. How do you respond to this criticism?
Yeah, I think first things first. I think we stopped our ads way back in April or May. Because we ran an experiment and we realized that those 30-40 seconds of ads is really not enough to educate people about crypto. And we've always tried to be more on the education part rather than just the advertisement part. So we stopped it. But as an industry, unfortunately, I don't think it was an industry-wide decision. And that is where I think all of these problems today emerged, because there were a lot of ads in the recent, I think, the T20 World Cup. And what we've done now as an industry is gotten together and said, let's not run any of these ads on TV for now. Let's first figure out the right approach. The question is, should we even run ads for a technology and an investment option which is so new and so misunderstood? So we're still trying to figure out, but for now, we've put a pause as an industry on all of these TV ads.
Okay, that's interesting to know. Let me ask you in the end, if you had to sort of, propose in talks with the government what an ideal responsible regulation could look like, what would be some of your key arguments?
See, I think the first thing is, regulation is like it's a very complicated subject. So the best way for the government, but the government has to act because, like you rightly said, it's growing really fast. What do
Yeah.
we do? How do we? So guidelines, I would say, rather than regulation, is probably the first good step. And we are seeing this happen even in the US. Guidelines where you try to apply existing laws and regulation on this industry. For example, mandatory KYCs. Now, the biggest problem was anonymity. If you ensure that any exchange that serves the Indian audience has to compulsorily do KYC, I think that is a big, a factor in ensuring that many of these issues that we have with anonymity and payments that are not allowed, I think we can curb that. We don't even need a full-fledged law to get these some basics: KYC, AML policies, fund protection, making sure that anyone who's serving the Indian audience is registering a company here, so that law enforcement can get to those. Today, the problem with law enforcement for them, for example,
Yeah.
if you have a case to deal with, Indian exchanges are easy for you to reach out because they're registered in the country. But the moment it goes to foreign exchanges, it gets really difficult for them. So mandating all of these, I think, and which are really straightforward points, I think that should be the first step. Eventually, I think we can find a regulatory path as well. It's very complicated because even which regulator should be regulating, I think that's a high point of debate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think guidelines is something that India can quickly get it.
I think the most interesting thing, actually, to pick up also on what you've said is to not see cryptocurrency as currency. And if that outlook actually changes, then the RBI would possibly be less concerned. But is the rest of your industry on board with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I don't even recall having a startup in India which is actually focusing on the payment use case. So you have startups in other countries which are focusing on payments and all. In India, most of the startups, the first generation were all about wallets and exchanges. The second generation is all about decentralized applications. So you really do not have a problem where you don't have to worry about limiting the payment use case of crypto, at least in India.
Okay. Let me ask you a last question. Are you hopeful that the government is moving in the right direction, or are you worried that there's a kind of ostrich-like attitude to the fact that technology may have already outpaced the pace at which the government is moving here?
I think the fact that the government is at the discussion table on crypto, that's a positive sign. I'm not worried because you don't expect this to be a cakewalk where a new technology comes and you get regulation tomorrow. It's bound to happen. All of these are two extremes that we are seeing right now, and I think there is a middle path which will eventually reach. So I'm really happy that the government is talking about crypto. There is a parliament. I think so many questions asked. I would not have been able to predict something like this, let's say 6 months ago. So I think we've seen some great progress in terms of talking about crypto in India. That's what we need today.
I think that's a great point, that this is already a mainstreamed enough subject to make it to the floor of Parliament, and who would have predicted that 6 months ago? Nischal Shetty, pleasure talking to you. Learned a lot. We'll have you back as this regulation becomes a little clearer and we have more details on which shape and form it's going to take. Fascinating, brave new world already here at our doorstep. You can pretend that it doesn't exist, but it's already here. So Nischal, thanks, and see you soon. And to our audience, thank you for watching. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Thanks.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.